Hi, this is Biggs, aka Michael Martin in real life, and welcome to my Guild Wars 2 missing manual video on how to create the perfect character. Now I know that there's a lot of character creation videos for Guild Wars 2 out there, but I haven't seen anything that really focuses on what I'm going to show you, which is basically how to create a character that not only looks perfect in the sense that this character will look the way that you want the character to look, but also to avoid mistakes that could really screw you up later on in the game. All right, so we're gonna do both. We're gonna accomplish both of these things here. Now I have at least one character in every class in the game, and other than my ranger, I have every class up to level 80 in the game, which means that I've made just about every mistake you can possibly make. And so hopefully you can learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to make the same mistakes yourself. Some of these mistakes can be kind of expensive in terms of both time and or perhaps gems from the gem store, right? But what constitutes the perfect character? Well, at least for one thing, it means that the character looks the way that you want it to look. Whether you like to create male or female characters doesn't matter, or why you want to play a certain character doesn't really matter, as long as that character looks the way that you want it to look. So as you can see, I like to play female characters because damn, they sexy. They so much sexy. Look at all that sexy they bring. Right? That's just hot right there. But not all my characters are female. I have some male characters as well, right? There's Sylvari Necromancer, Norn Warrior, and Norn Engineer, okay? But most of my characters are female. There's Thief, Mesmer, this is my main level 80 warrior. She got all the goodies. And as you can see, it's a very well put together character. The hair, the face, the armor, they all match up very nicely, at least to my eye, to my aesthetic. You know, this is what I like. I prefer, you know, earth tones and darker colors as well, which you can also see in my Necromancer. And for my Guardian, though, I'm going with, you know, sort of the whole holy light, the white thing. Very bright. Alright, pretty cool stuff. But I'm pretty happy with how all my characters turned out. Yes, I have spent gems on them for armor and for re-customizing them and for the hair. Like this hairstyle that you see here is a gem store hairstyle. You cannot create a character with this hair right from the beginning. Now see, and that's one of the things that you should know that the game's not really going to tell you. And that's why I sort of refer to this video as the missing manual for character creation. The game's not going to tell you that this hair, or this armor for that matter, these are things that you do not have at the beginning, and nor will you ever have them unless you buy them from the gem store. So there's special hair and even special hair colors that you can buy from the gem store. And from time to time, special armor is sold that you can skin to any other armor that you have in the game. Right? So, without further ado, let's create a new character, and I'll show you my process for how to create perfect characters, and hopefully this will be something that you'll be able to benefit from also. Now I'm going to focus on humans, and I'll make videos for the other races as well, but my human is going to be first here. And we'll stick with female for now. Now when you come to this screen, you're going to select what they call a profession, which is, you know, class to many other MMO players. If you've ever played other MMOs, you normally think of this as a class. Guild Wars 2, they call it a profession. And each one of these professions, when you select one, they'll have a different default character appearance. Now, as I said, you're going to have a default appearance depending on what profession you select. If you like that, that's cool. You've got a starting point. If you don't, like it, then you're going to have to make some changes here. So let's go ahead and hit next. Alright, so this is the armor that you're actually going to start off with in the game. These are its default colors. Now the first thing that we're going to be concerned with is the height of the character. You have a sliding scale here for character height, and as you can see, the default is set a little bit above the middle. Now most characters are going to be the default height. So if you want to be the same height as everybody else, you can leave it as is. If you want to be slightly taller or shorter, then you're going to need to adjust this. I should warn you though, there's quite a bit of extremes here between the heights. If you make your character as tall as possible, she's going to be pretty dang tall. She's going to be, but not just tall, she's going to be bigger in every way imaginable. See, the scaling on this, it's not that you have tall people and short people and otherwise all the proportions are the same. The scaling is uniform across all aspects and dimensions of the character. So she's going to be bigger in every way imaginable. So this is going to look like a giant, almost to the same size as a small Norn. And then this is going to look almost like, she's going to be almost as small as a kid. So now if that's what you want, then, you know, cool, whatever, go for it. So I like my characters to be around them, for females anyways, either in the middle or just slightly above average, so that you can be a little bit taller than most females, but not as tall as human males, and you certainly don't want to get confused for a Norn. Okay, so that's body features, and that's all this is just this sort of thing here. Now the other choice you have here under body features, besides height, is physique. Now here's where things start to get interesting, and where the game doesn't help you much. There's not much else out there that's written for this, unless you want to. And there's other videos where people just make choices, but they don't really explain anything. So here's a clue here. There's various physiques. The one that you start off with is going to be the one that a lot of people tend to like. Certainly most guys tend to like, because she's got a very attractive shape. She's buxom. Okay. But if you want her to have a little bit more meat on the bones, there's one other physique you can pick. But the problem is that it can be hard to tell the difference between the physiques when she's got all this clothing on and armor. Now there's an option here where you can hide the armor. If you click on the little helmet icon here, you can hide the armor. So you see her in her underwear, and the helmet has a little X over it to show you that you're not looking at any armor at all. She's basically standing in a swimsuit or underwear. And so here's the first physique. As you can see, she's a little bit slimmer, breasts are a little smaller. Okay, this is too skinny for my taste. This is better. The third one is a little bit more of is also somewhat slim, but nicely shaped. And then the top row continues with this arrow here. Okay, now we're getting a little bit more muscular. This is very athletic. You can see a little bit more definition in the muscles and in the stomach, and smaller boobs, because being athletic, that's what you would expect. And then this last one is also thin, but with a nice shape. This is more Barbie doll kind of a shape, I guess. Now let me go hit the left arrow here to go back to the beginning of the rows. Now I'm going to go to the bottom row. Here we have a little bit thicker in every way except for the chest. Is this a realistic body? It's, when you look at how people are shaped in real life, yeah, you could say that's a little bit more realistic. Here we have almost a little too skinny here. There's more definition in the sense that you can see some abs and some muscular definition, but you also see some ribs, which is kind of creepy. I don't like that. And then the next one, muscular definition with a smaller chest. Let's extend to the end of the row here, second to the last, and then finally the last one. Okay. All right. So I like this one just because it's not too big and it's not too thin, and it's got some nice curves. This is something that I would be pleased to look at, as I play the game myself, as a male who tends to play female characters. Now again, creating the perfect character for you, it's whatever you want, whatever you think is cool and whatever you want. But now you know what the different options are for this. Now here, and while we got them mostly naked, this is a good time to pick skin color. Don't worry about the rest of the features on here. You know you're gonna pick a certain hair color, so you can choose a skin color that you think will go with that. You can go back and change it later. Now skin color ranges from the very, very pale, like holy shit, put some damn sunglasses on, all the way to super dark. Like that's totally darker than dark there. Okay. Now if you want to see the skin a little bit better, you can always zoom in. There's a little zoom in button here, a little magnifying glass. You can zoom in, and once we get a little bit closer, we see that there's some sort of secondary undertones to the skin that you don't see at first, that when you get closer you realize, okay, I may not like that. Okay, here we see some red undertones. Now there's little arrows here, left and right, on the skin color. And so it's important to remember that these are here and to use them, because all the colors that you see here is not everything that you get. So let's make some, I'll keep the skin tone, but let's make some other changes here. Let me go to head options now. So you see this lifts up and reveals that we have faces and skin color and hairstyles and color. Now I'm generally a fan of choosing the face and then picking the hair. Maybe it's different for you, I don't know. But I like this particular hairstyle for choosing the face because the hair is not in the way of anything. So we've got a few different faces to pick from. Some of these look a little goofy on my screen. I don't know if it's some funny thing with my graphics card or what, but like this one here, for example, look how creepy that looks. If you choose that face, she's actually not that scary in real life, but she's definitely a more mature woman, like an older woman. And it's cool that you have this option if you want to take it in the game. Let me go back to the beginning here. Here's the first face. Okay, very young, very open-eyed, somewhat childlike. Little Cupid's bow curved to the mouth there. Somewhat innocent looking. If that's what you want, cool. I don't like this. I find it too childish, actually. Just, you know, personally, my own taste. But if you wanted to take something like this and make it more mature, you could certainly do that. If you go into face details, for example, you can mess around with eye angle, right? That can make things a little bit more mature. Make the iris size a little smaller. Make the eye size height a little bit more narrow. Right, there we go. If you make it really big, she's like, whoa, big eyes. So make that a little bit more narrow. Brow thickness has to do with how far the brows sort of stick out. There, see? So you can make her go like full Neanderthal or a little bit more like relaxed and receded there. Now the other thing that'll really affect the childishness versus maturity of this face would be the mouth and the jaw. So I'm just going to skip nose for now and head down to mouth here. Okay, we'll make the mouth a normal width instead of less than normal. And we'll give the upper lip a little bit more fullness. And the lower lip a little bit less. Like so. Now it's still got that little bit of a Cupid's bow shape to it. You'll notice there's nothing you could do about that. That comes with the face. And then for the jaw, what we'll do is we'll make the chin length a little bit longer. As you can see, right, we get a little bit more jaw pronouncement there. And for jaw width, watch their face carefully. Right, you can see what we're doing there. Now I'm gonna move this inwards to create a more narrow face rather than a rounder face, because a rounder face is a more childlike face. Lower jaw is how the chin jets out. See? Now we don't want to give her an underbite. Let's just keep it a little bit to the left of center there. Cheeks, we can go all the way to full chipmunk to very narrow. Now I want to make them a little bit less than the narrowest width so that we have Just a little bit of a less innocent looking face. Okay. Let me go back to eyes here. There we go. Move the eye angle down rather than up. And now we have a unique face. This is not going to look like everybody else's character. It's not quite as childlike, not quite as innocent looking as the default face that we started out with. You could further make this look a little bit more mature. We go back to head options. We could pick a more mature hairstyle. Like that, for example, or this one. And we have a bun. Where's our bun? That's not it. There it is. There's our bun. But then, of course, there's this one too. All right, that doesn't look too bad. If you want a little, if you want that look, if you pick something like this, we're back to, you know, sort of the more childlike or less mature look. All right, now let's start over again and take a completely different approach here. I'm actually going to go back all the way to profession, because when you go, and this is one of those gotchas, if you don't know this, you could really undo a lot of your efforts. If you go back to select a profession and you select a different profession, all your settings that you had customized are going to reset. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. Let me go to Necromancer here. All right, and then we'll hit next. We go to face details. All right, so you see my eye angle is reset. These are the default settings for this particular face. All right, let me go back to head options. Now, here's a face that at first glance doesn't appear to be extraordinarily beautiful. There might be prettier default faces in the game here, right? Like this one. Or this one. Maybe not that one. So what about this one? Can we take this face and do something with it? It's not the face that most people pick. See, part of creating the perfect character means that your character doesn't look like everybody else's character. And it's really easy for your character to end up looking like everybody else's. Because you'll pick something, you're like, hey, that looks cool, I like that. Well, guess what? So does everybody else. And that's what everybody else picked. So can we do something with this? I believe we can. But first, I'm going to pick a different hairstyle. All right, let me go with this one here. Now we're going to go into face details. All right, eye angle. Move that down a bit. Eye size. Height is how open the eyes are versus how narrow the eyes are. If you go to the extremes, when your character tries to pull off facial expressions during the cinematics and the cut scenes, it can look a little weird. So, I'm going to open those eyes up just a little bit more. Alright, now for my eyebrow thickness. See, your hair kind of covers that up so much that that's kind of not really a point. But look how far up the angle is already. And the placement is set at the default. So I'm going to change the angle here to the normal setting. And then for placement, we can go down or we can go up. Alright, so I'm going to move it just slightly above normal. And then here's the width of the eyes. And I'm going to make, because her hair, if I make them too wide, actually it doesn't look too bad. Just a little bit back. Alright. Now I haven't talked about eye color yet. Let me talk about that here. Some of these colors look really, actually kind of wonky. Like, for example, violet. Right? Now that's so dark of a violet that you almost can't tell that they're violet unless you get really close to them. And when is that ever going to happen in an MMO? If I pick medium violet, you can start to tell that they're purple. There's lavender. light violet. Now, okay. And see, now we're starting to be able to differentiate the pupil from the iris there. Turquoise, that just looks a little unnatural. Okay, ice blue, bright blue, they all look good. You've got some different shades of brown. A lot of these look really nice. Autumn brown just tends to look mostly gray. Don't forget these little arrows here so you can see all your color choices. Sea green is another kind of unnatural looking one. Looks like she's got fake contacts in. I don't really go for that myself, but hey, whatever bakes your brownies. Alright. So, we'll go with the lilac there. Now for noses, you've got nose length. As you can see what that does. And as a long time, doodler, drawer, and artist, I've learned about the proportions of the human face, and the nose is really supposed to be halfway between the eyes, the line of the eyes, and the bottom of the chin. So I can move her nose up a little bit to get me closer to that. The mouth can be moved around a little bit as well. And her nose is a little too nubbish there. The nose width at the base is how wide the nose is going to be. Alright, so if you want to give somebody a little bit more character, you can give them a little bit of wider nose. Let me move this back down. Not too Barbie-ish, but... Nose width at bridge is this area up here between the eyes. As you can see, right there, like that. Or narrow all the way. Super skinny nose. That's too skinny. Let's move this back. Nose height at tip is essentially how pointy the nose is. So height is an odd word to use there, but I actually want the nose to have a little bit more definition than it had before, so I'm going to stick it out a little bit more there. And then nose height at the bridge is how recessed or protruding the bridge of the nose is. Right there, see? That looks a little unusual. Most people don't have a nose like that. That's extreme. Let me move that back. Or move it back. Oh, that's a little goofy looking as well, because she's got hit in the eyes with an iron bar at some point in her life. Let me move this back up here like that. Okay, there we go. Now for mouth, this is a very plain face, a plain mouth. It doesn't look like... This is much more of a natural look. Not heavy makeup in here. Okay, but the top lip and the bottom lip are far too even for my taste. And the mouth is exactly the right width compared to the face. The corners of the mouth should vertically line up with where the pupils are. But let's make her mouth just a tiny bit wider. And let's give her lower lip some more definition here. Alright. Now let's bring it back to physique and zoom in so I can pick skin color, because this is the skin color that is being used here. It's pale 1 and it's just a tad too light. An adventurer, a hero, is going to be out in the sun a lot. Sure, you can make them pale if you want, if that's really your thing, but let's put a little bit more color into them. There we go. Now these are still within the pale range, as you can see. This is pale 2 now versus pale 3. So there's a little bit more rosiness, a little bit more color to them. We're going to give them more of a tan. We can go to mid 1. Or light 6. Alright. So now we have a unique looking character. Is she, is she trying to, you're not trying to make her look like a supermodel, but you're trying to make her interesting and look like maybe like a real person could. Now if you want the supermodel thing, we can do that. And just for the sake of it, let's go ahead and go back to professions here. And let's do engineer. Sure, why not? Alright, so for head options here, Let's see. There we go. Alright, so we'll go with this. And for face detail, actually, let's change the hair real quick. Head options. Hair. Now this is a very common hair, but for good reason. It looks great. If you want something that's long, but that's a little bit less common, you could go with this. It's very long, as you can see. And you'll notice that this has an accessory. And you can pick an accessory color for that down here. Same thing with for something like this, or the headband on this one. Sort of girl next door hair we have there. Alright, let's go back to this. Now for the face on this, what we're going to do here is pick some lighter eyes. And some different hair. Now there's some really great shades of hair in this game, I gotta say. I don't like stuff that's too unnatural looking, just my personal preference. Campfire is a great shade of red if you want something that's pretty red looking but also still natural looking. Whereas if you go to like black red, that doesn't look like anybody's natural hair, that just looks fake. Okay, orange red, same thing, a little too garish. Red orange is near what we kind of started off with. If you want to create a blonde, some of the shades of blonde don't really look all that great in here. Like, that's a little too, still a little too orangish. Straight up yellow, too yellow. The best blondes are actually light brown and dark blonde. There's just regular blonde. Mousy blonde. I don't see what's so mousy about that. It's just lighter. Then we have light blonde. Now this is starting to get a little too light for my taste, but hey, again, it's whatever you like. If you want to go with really dark hair, there is black, but it's so damn black you can't see anything in it. It's like a black hole is what it is, not like black hair. So what I would suggest is you go with either black gray or not that one, but all the way back here on the right you can go with chocolate brown or dark brown. And as you can see, dark brown pretty much just looks like black. But you can see more of the highlights in the hair. You can actually see the hair itself, not just a big black splotch. Okay. I'm going to go back to blonde here. I'm going to pick only dark blonde. And for the eyes, that would be under face details. Let's see, medium green, light green, okay. And then for eye angle, now this is the default eye angle. If we move them all the way up, that's a little too strange, cat-like. I'm actually going to even them out a little bit by moving this a little bit more to the left. Iris size. Going to make those a little bit smaller than normal. Eye size height, as you can see, is by default less than normal. I'm going to move it to normal. Alright. If you move it, bigger eyes is not always better. As you can see, that just looks freaky. She's like, wow. So back to normal we go. Eyebrow placement. If you move them down, she's going to look perpetually angry. If that's what you want, cool. If you move them up, she's going to look perpetually surprised or like giving you that look like, are you serious? Really? So I'm going to move a little bit higher than normal there. Eye size width could stand to be a little bit more narrow. This is the width of each eye horizontally. Okay. Now for the nose, nose is pretty good. Nose with the bridge, these are already have been narrowed up a little bit. Narrow up the bridge just a little bit more. And height at tip, remember that's how far the nose kind of pokes out. I'm going to move that in just slightly for this one. Nose height at bridge is good. Mouth. Okay. Not too bad. Lower lip. If we're trying to make a beauty queen here. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of that. If you make them all, that looks crazy. Likewise. Look like he's getting ready to pucker up freakish. Alright, now for chin on this. Pretty good, but we actually want a little bit more jaw width here, I think. Cheeks are slightly narrower. We can puff them out, chipmunk style. If we move them all the way in, she looks rather gaunt. So let's pull him back about here. Head size, you'll notice slightly bigger than normal. One thing that's odd about the humans in Guild Wars 2, their necks are like ridiculously tall. You can see the head size does change here. And head width, which is distorted if you do move it too much in one direction or the other. Alright, so put our armor back on her. Zoom out. Alright, that's a hot chick. Alright, so that's how you get your character to pretty much look the way you want, but that's not all there is to this game. You see, for each profession that you choose, you're going to have choices to make that are going to affect not only how your character looks, but can affect the story in the game. Like with Engineer here, for example, it says my most useful tool is my Universal Multi-Tool Pack, which a lot of people deride as the hobo sack. But you can also say, hey, you know what, I got goggles or I have a monocle. And it actually looks pretty cool. Now I'm gonna ruin all these changes and customizations I made by going back to different professions, but that's okay, because I want to show you how these choices matter. For elementalists, they don't matter so much because you're just picking a little floaty gem headpiece thing that shows up here in front of your character's forehead. Okay. For warrior, this choice involves whether you have a helmet of various kinds or shoulder pads. I always rock the shoulder pads because the helmets look stupid, especially on chicks. So I rock the shoulder pads. For Guardian, it's a choice between helmet versus shoulder pads. There's these shoulder pads, or these shoulder pads, or this helmet. Almost nobody chooses the helmet. A lot of people like these shoulder pads, and then in fact they like them so much that they continue to skin them on every every shoulder gear that they get throughout the rest of the game, because they have this symbol that you see on them is used throughout the Guild Wars game as this icon to represent healing, and that's a big part of what the Guardian does. For Necromancer, your choices are going to be what type of sort of face paint or mask that you have. So there's Ghostly Wraith, there's Skull Face, there's Trickster Demon. Okay. You can do some cool things here. It's like, for example, say you pick Skull, and you come back here and you pick a dark skin tone. Right, and then we come back here. Now the skull looks pretty damn cool on the dark skin, right? That's awesome. Or even likewise with that. See, that looks a little different. That does not show up very well. For thief, your choices are, you can have a hood, or like a mask thing, which looks a little bit too much like a burqa, I think, for most Westerners' taste. You can have the headband of determination, or you can have the hood of subterfuge. A lot of people dig the hood, and in fact they keep it, and they keep reusing it with all the armor that they get later on in the game. For mesmers, your choices are these various masks. There's Harlequin's mask, a Phantasm of Sorrow, and Fanged Dread. Now most people hate these, and they immediately hide them as soon as they can and replace them with different headgear altogether as soon as they can. But hey, that's up to you. Now the other choices you have to make in the game, and this is true for all humans, regardless of whatever profession you pick. The other choices you have to make have to do with how you're going to make choices when these choices are available in the game, for how you're going to conduct your character's disposition. Is your character charming? Is your character dignified? Or is your character ferocious? Supposedly these are supposed to affect how NPCs relate to you, but the truth is they don't really. They're just choices that you can make in order to be consistent with yourself. The next choice you're going to make is very important, because this is going to affect your, I almost said infect, this is going to affect your entire personal story quest line. So you can choose to be raised as a street rat, a common folk, or among the nobility. Now the storylines for the street rat and common folk are pretty good. Nobility, not quite so much. Although it does introduce you to a character that has been popping up in the Guild Wars 2 Living Story lately, which is Laura Farron. If you're interested in leveling quickly, I would suggest you choose this one here, Common Folk, because you can blow through like the first 10 levels of this very, very fast. In fact, when people create characters in order to reach the point where they receive a Black Lion chest key, which normally you would have to buy from the gem store, this is the quest line that they choose because it is the fastest one. The next choice that you're going to be faced with is one of your biggest regrets. Did you regret that you never searched for your true parents, implying, of course, that they're missing? That you never recovered your sister's body because you assume that she's dead? Or that you never joined the circus? Now, I don't know how you feel about circuses, but I despise them. And this quest line is completely nightmarish and messed up and weird in that regard. Now, if that's your thing, hey, go for it. But don't say I didn't warn you. These two are interesting and a lot of fun. They try to bring some emotion into it. Try to get you to feel that emotion as well, with regard to your parents or with regard to your sister. And of course, you make your character look one way and your sister looks completely different from you. Like they don't modify that at all based on your own character's appearance. And honestly, I don't see how they could, but after that, you pick one of the 6 human gods to associate yourself with, or that people will say you were blessed by this god. And you can read the descriptions of each of the gods below, and you click on them. This doesn't matter in terms of your story at all. It affects nothing. It's just a personal choice, a personal preference, okay? After this, then, you pick a name. Now, the names can be, you can do a lot with the names here. For example, you can put multiple spaces in between words to have a name. So, like, let's say I wanted a name like this. No problem. I can do that. Okay? Or you can do the whole first name, last name thing. One thing I would implore you about character names is Try to be original. I can't even tell you how many Daenerys Targaryens I've seen running around, and come on, that's just stupid. If you name your character after another character in another book, at least make it someone that nobody would hardly ever guess. We don't need any more Sephiroths. We don't need any more, Sundaris. We don't need any more Daenerys Targaryens running around. If you want to have a funny name, that's cool. Nobody's going to tell you how to play the game, really, but don't pick a name that you're going to regret later on, that you're going to feel is stupid. If you need to change it later on, you can do that, but you're going to have to spend gems to do it. So anyways, that's how to create the perfect character in Guild Wars 2, also in a way that won't screw things up for you down the road, or that you'll make decisions that you'll regret later on down the road. I hope that you found this useful. If not, maybe a bit long, sorry about that, but believe it or not, there's actually quite a bit to cover when it comes to stuff like this. As somebody who cares a lot about what their characters look like and spends hours creating individual characters, this is some of the things that I've learned that I do when I create characters, and I hope that you can benefit from that too. So if you like this, please give it a like on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, let me know what you think in the comments below, and until next time, this is Biggs for Biggs MMO Plus. We'll talk to you later. Bye.